There is no game in existence, theoretically in existence, that I want more than Persona 6. Guys, next year, we are coming up on the 10th anniversary of Persona 5. It has been that long. And so, surely, Persona 6 is just around the corner. However, Persona 4 Revival is coming first. This means that you can only imagine that Persona 4 Revival and Persona 6 will not be coming in the same year. They are going to have a little bit of space from each other, unless they pull a Square Enix and put out a major remake and the next mainline title like right next to each other. But I don't imagine that Sega Atlus is going to do that. But today we got a pretty interesting update on when Persona 4 Revival could be coming, or at least when it's not coming, as well as the sales for multiple Sega and Atlus games that lets us know just how well these IPs are performing, and some really mind-blowing news about Persona 5's sales overall. But first, a quick shout out to the channel sponsor Instant Gaming, who brings you Steam codes for games at a much cheaper price. Right now, you can get Liza P for only $24. That is one awesome deal, and you can catch up on the game right in time for the brand new DLC. They also allow us to give away a free game of your choice every month. All you have to do is click the link below, smack that participate button, and you're entered to win. So be sure to check out the link in the description or pinned comment. So Sega's most recent financial report had a few interesting things in it. The first being that of the Persona 4 Revival release window. It's saying that announced titles to be released in or after fiscal year 2027/3. Their fiscal year starts April 1st, 2026 and will go all the way until 2027 March. This means that at the very earliest that Persona 4 Revival is not coming this year or early next year. It is coming at the very earliest mid to late 2026, but even then that seems a little bit optimistic. As we've seen from the trailer, if you even want to call it that, the teaser that essentially just showed Yu Narukami's walk cycle and how Inaba is looking, not to mention that it said this footage is from early development, it does feel like Persona 4 Revival is a decent ways off. I mean, again, they went out of their way to put early development in the trailer, and everything we've seen thus far does seem to confirm that this is probably a little bit further off than we wanted it to be. I don't think you show off a few cuts of a few environments and a character's walk cycle, and that ultimately be for a game that is coming relatively soon. All of which is to say that I believe that P4R is probably releasing much later in 2026, if not 2027. And the reason that this is so alarming to people, and the reason that this is so scary, is that what does that mean for Persona 6? Because again, I can't imagine Atlus launching these two titles right next to each other, and I certainly can't imagine them launching, two 80+ hour games in the same year. Fearing for the worst, it could potentially mean that we're not going to see Persona 6 until 2027 or 2028. And bear in mind, it also seems unlikely that they would reveal Persona 6 and then drop it within the same year. Typically, most games want at least a 1-year marketing lead up. So I would imagine this means that Persona 6 at the earliest is looking like 2028. If we were to be insanely optimistic about it, then perhaps Persona 4 Revival is coming 2026 next year, and then P6 will come out 2027, and the marketing will just be like one straight shot. We'll go directly from Persona 4 Revival all the way to Persona 6. But what sucks about this is just, honestly, we've been waiting so long for P6. Again, we're hitting 10 years next year, but it's entirely possible that we won't have the game in our hands by then. My hope is that Atlus will tease Persona 6 to kind of hype the marketing for Persona 4 Revival. I think right before Persona 4 Revival comes out, they should drop a teaser for P6. It is going to motivate people to go out and play Persona 4 Revival and get super hyped about P6. That is what I hope, pray that they are going to do. Because at this point, Persona 6 is sounding and feeling an awful lot like Half-Life 3. It's feeling like one of those mythical games, something that is destined to be an E3 or now Summer Games Fest rumor, but never actually be a real video game. And I don't think that's the case because Persona games are selling too well and Atlas definitely needs to put out more of them. With that being said, we got to talk about some of the recent sales that have come out. For starters, Metaphor Refontazio has surpassed 2 million units sold. As you guys know, this was my game of the year last year, and this is a pretty strong release for a new IP from Atlas. Some people online have been talking, saying that it didn't sell as much as they thought because it sold 1 million at launch, and then it took roughly 8 months, I believe, from October of last year to June of this year to finally clear 2 million. But I mean, you know, that's kind of video game sales in general, right? Like, video games tend to sell a lot within that first initial launch period, and then a lot of them tend to slow down tremendously after that. Good word of mouth, people continuing to talk about and love the game is what allows this game to have legs and to keep selling. Now, what I do expect for Metaphor to do from here is to come out with a re-released version, just like Persona 5 Royal, Persona 4 Golden, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, you know, Metaphor Refontazio retold or something. And they have a semi-good excuse, I guess, to be able to do it, because Metaphor Refontazio is absolutely going to come to Switch 2 at some point, and the best possible way that I can think of to get people to buy it is to have some brand new content. And then hopefully that content also comes to PlayStation and Steam as well. But as you guys know, you will be paying a premium price for it. It probably will not just be DLC. You want to do business with Atlas, you gotta pay the Atlas tax. They included the sales for the last 6 years of their games on one of the slides, and it's speculated that they did this accidentally because they redacted it. However, this does reveal that they're doing pretty decent. So we have to start with Persona 5 Royal, which includes Persona 5 Royal Remaster version. It's currently sitting at 7.25 million units sold. Now, initially, I thought this meant Persona 5 OG included, but that's actually not the case, because if you simply do the math and add up all of these years, you actually get the 7.25 number. So this really is just Persona 5 Royal. It is not Persona 5 OG included. And the way that you know that for sure, again, other than adding up the numbers, is noting that this starts with fiscal year ending in March 2020, which is around the time that Persona 5 Royal launched. And again, if you go straight across, that adds up to 7.25 million, which means that the 3+ million of the original Persona 5 is actually not being counted here. That means that altogether, Persona 5, just between it and Royal, has sold over 10 million units. It is absolutely insane to think that Persona games are now selling in the same ballpark as like the highest selling Final Fantasy games, especially when you go back pre-P5, and Persona was a lot more niche than something like FF. Persona games selling 1 million, 2 million was pretty good. P4 really started to popularize the series even more than P3 did, but P5 and P5R together have knocked that out of the park. So there are some other interesting numbers here. Sonic Frontiers selling 4.5 million, Team Sonic Racing selling 3.5 million, Yakuza Like a Dragon selling 2.86 million. That's actually pretty nuts. And I believe that makes it the best performing Yakuza game. So again, it's just really cool to see how the Like a Dragon series has basically really grown over the years. And if you go down here and look at Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, it's at 1.6 million and is probably going to continue to grow at a good rate. It actually came out of the gate a lot stronger because in its first physical year, it sold 1.18 million, whereas Lad 7 only sold 450,000. So essentially, Like a Dragon 8 sold almost triple in its first physical year. Now that being said, in the second fiscal year, it did dip off by like half, but altogether, I'd say that it's still looking pretty good. However, when you do the math and add it together, it does seem like Lad 8 is doing pretty good. Persona 3 Reload is also at 2 million, which is awesome considering that this game was available on Game Pass, meaning that despite the fact that so many people could access this game for free, or rather included with their Game Pass subscription, the game still managed to knock it out of the park, selling 1.2 million in the year of its release, and then 850,000, almost another million in the next year. I strongly believe that this game is going to reach 3 or 4 million in lifetime sales before we know it. You got to keep in mind that a lot of these games are going to be coming to Switch 2, and they will probably do numbers in Japan. As a result, that alone will definitely be responsible for a few 100,000 being added to titles like Persona 3 Reload explode. Like Shin Megami Tensei 5, which, including Vengeance together with the original release, is also at 2 million, a huge amount of growth for Shin Megami Tensei 5. And so when you look at it, Sega has a number of really strong IPs that continue to grow with each and every entry. The interest in their games is absolutely not slowing down, and Persona is bigger than ever. Considering what Persona 5 Royal has sold, I can easily imagine Persona 6 pushing past 10 million, as so many people are going to be coming in from the hype from P5 Royal, the hype from the Persona remakes, and all of the cultural influence that the Persona games have left, and the massive impact that it's making. It's going to be a little bit longer before we see that game. Things are just looking and better for Atlus. But with that being said, are you looking forward to Persona 4 Revival? When do you think they're going to announce Persona 6? Leave me a comment below letting me know your answers to these questions, and I'll see you all in the next video. Later, guys.